Hello everybody! The short version of this video is simple. Bruma is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, or at least part of it, the northern ridge of it, in the 4th era. So it takes place after that 200-year time skip from Oblivion to Skyrim. It's good, you should play it. Now, full disclosure, I am affiliated with the Beyond Skyrim project, although I am not in the team or associated with the team that worked on Bruma and is continuing to work on the rest of Cyrodiil now. That's a different team. Beyond Skyrim is a very, very large project aiming to bring the entirety of Tamriel into the Skyrim engine. For those of you who haven't been longtime viewers and don't know about my extreme excitement for the Morrowind mod, Tamriel Rebuilt, I'm going to talk about that really quick first. Tamriel Rebuilt is a project that originally aimed to recreate all of Tamriel in the Morrowind engine. Eventually, due to inconsistent levels of quality and splits within the project, falling outs, things like that, the scope and scale of the project was downsized, and now it exists to finish the Morrowind mainland. For those of you who don't know, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind took place only on the island of Vardenfell, and did not feature the mainland except for a single city known as Mournhold that you could teleport to as a part of a DLC, or expansion pack. Tamriel Rebuilt has created the entire height map of mainland Morrowind, and it is huge. But in terms of completely fleshed out content that is more or less professional quality and ready to go, only about 1/3 has been completed. Another project, known as Project Tamriel, is also in the works for Morrowind and is adding the other provinces. Much like the Beyond Skyrim project, Project Tamriel has multiple teams working on the various provinces. There's been quite a bit of coordination between Tamriel Rebuilt and Project Tamriel to make sure that the borders line up, to make sure that they're using a common asset library, as to make sure that the mods are completely compatible with one another. So, despite its general age, the Morrowind modding community is extremely active to this day. So while Tamriel Rebuilt continues to build on to the southern parts of Morrowind, we have Project Tamriel's Skyrim Home of the Nords, recreating Skyrim in the Morrowind engine, not as Skyrim created it, but rather as it was depicted within lore books and alluded to in the Blood Moon expansion pack. Province Cyrodiil and High Rock are doing their own things, all of which will eventually create one cohesive world of Tamriel in the Morrowind engine. So Beyond Skyrim is similar, using multiple teams to work on all of Tamriel at once. So when someone says, why don't they stop working on this part and work on that part instead? It's because they've got people working on this part, that part, and that part, and that part. They've got all different modding teams doing different things all at the same time. The Skyrim modding community is very active, and that's how this is possible. Bruma is actually only a small part of the Cyrodiil team's work. However, they realized early on that in order to make a high-quality release within a reasonable time frame, they had to downsize the scope and scale, and that's what Bruma is. It's extremely distilled. All the focus went into this one area. It's done, even though the rest of the Cyrodiil height map exists. It hasn't been integrated properly into the world space yet. So to get to this expansion content, you're going to have to follow the road south, up from Helgen, along the road that you ended up taking as a part of that cart ride. Luckily, we can all use alternate start live another life, and we don't have to ever use that cart ride again, and we can end up somewhere else in Skyrim, like, say, Falkreath, and then work our way up. No problem. Anyway, once you arrive at the gate, you will receive voice acting that rivals or surpasses the main game's voice acting, both in writing and in delivery. They'll pretty much tell you that the border is sealed, and there is a way to cross the border illegally. Alternatively, if you are the Dragonborn, that is, you have gone and killed the dragon at the watchtower and received the summons from the Greybeards, you can tell them you're Dragonborn, and they'll let you through the gate. Likewise, if you happen to be a part of the Imperial Legion, or pretty much anything except a Stormcloak, you can tell them you're a member of the Legion and they'll let you through. You can use your persuasion skill to convince them to let you in, and alternatively, you can just kill your way in. Killing the commander will give you the key to the gate. The first time I disguised myself as an Imperial Legion soldier, they let me in. The second time I killed my way in as a Stormcloak. And yes, you will be going through the Pale Pass. You will be arriving at Fort Pale Pass, and you'll just go by that. Pale Pass is a freaking trade route. Just because it was avalanched during Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion's time, doesn't mean they couldn't have dug it up for Skyrim's time. So a big middle finger to all the folks who tried to tell me otherwise. Anyway, you arrive at Fort Pale Pass, and it's a nice place. They got conversations going on, they got a Nord prisoner you can interrogate, using speech skill, illusion, or you can free him and fight your way out, slaughtering the fort for the Stormcloaks. In fact, you can grab the commander's warhorn and actually call in the Stormcloaks in order to help you guys escape. And the Penitus Oculatus, that is the 007 James Bond of the Imperial Legion, those guys will pretty much try to put you down. It's kind of cool if you do it that way. But that's where the Civil War ends. Around Fort Pale Pass is as far as they give a crap. As soon as you travel south past the inn, it becomes clear, as people may occasionally go, my husband went off to fight the war and I haven't seen him since, or someone else says, I'm so glad the war hasn't spilled over here yet. The war isn't an active part of their lives. Imperial Stormcloaks, none of that matters to them. They're citizens of the Empire, and it's not something that's going to affect them, so they're just living their lives in the cosmopolitan heartland of the Empire. They got their own problems to deal with, quite frankly. From members of the Synod who've taken over the former Mages Guild Hall, clashing with the College of Whispers, local farmers and traders going about their daily lives, and more. Now, looking at the city of Bruma itself, this is something I said when I revisited Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion on a recent live stream, and I'll say it again. Bruma is more like Skyrim than the developers of Skyrim made Skyrim. Better to say Bruma is a better representative of the frozen north, grand capital of the Nords. It seems like a place that would actually be a city, would actually be a place where Nords would gather and such. And I think that's why Skyrim's homesteads and villages, because yes, by comparative standards, Skyrim cities are like villages. It makes Skyrim the province feel like a awkward, tiny backwater mostly claimed by wilderness. Anyway, I struggled to figure out which of the many characters I prefer in Beyond Skyrim Bruma because there are just so many interesting ones. But if I had to pin a specific moment that I really enjoyed, I would have to say that it would be the Thalmor standing in front of the Chapel of Saint Martin. The Thalmor are complaining to the priest of Martin that worshipping Martin's septum violates the white gold concordat. The priest goes, what does the concordat actually say? Knowing damn well that the concordat only talks about Talos worship, nothing about Martin's septum worship. They grumble and declare they'll be back. The exchange is done so well. Another thing I found that was really fun was this Ayleid dungeon to the northwest of Bruma. A great magister of the Wild Elves has been forcibly returned to life, ripped from Aetherius. His former servants arise as skeletons, zombies, wraiths, ghosts. I found it kind of disappointing that the zombies in this particular dungeon were more or less Draugr. I mean, they weren't named Draugr, but they definitely had the Draugr models, the glowing eyes. They ran really quick with axes. They were just Draugr, and it was extremely disappointing when Oblivion had zombies. In fact, so does Beyond Skyrim Bruma. The necromancers that wander around do summon zombies, proper ones. And so you look at those and go, why weren't those in the Ayleid dungeon? Why are there Draugr there instead? And, you know, not called Draugr, but still using the models of Draugr. It was disappointing seeing that. But aside from that one complaint, the dungeon was thoroughly a delight to play through. The boss battle at the end and seeing Ayleid wells, Welkid stones, specialized Ayleid daggers, swords, things like that,
made the dungeon feel really nostalgic to play through, but also interesting because, you know, you never knew what kind of loot you were going to come across, and that was really nice. After I got my ass kicked in that boss battle against the said Magister, I went down to Cloud Ruler Temple, which I personally would have wished passed into the hands of the Penitentius Oculatus, which they dropped the name several times at Fort Pale Pass. I figured they would have a presence there because, you know, this was the big Fort of the Blades, and the Penitentius Oculatus are the new Spy Masters, but alas, what I saw instead was a broken down remnants of Cloud Ruler Temple. And I would have thought that with over 100 years, it would have crumbled completely, or at least, I don't know, been in less condition. Instead, we're given a little nostalgia trip. Like, look at this. It's the broken down version of the place I've been. It's fallen on hard times. But in being so recognizable, I don't know, it just didn't feel right to me, mainly because I already had created my own expectations of what I wanted to see there, and those weren't met. That's what I call an unreasonable expectation, however, because other people have other visions for how they would have seen it. I just think that if we're going with the broken down, abandoned version, it's in too good a state, unfortunately. Like, it should have been even more crumbled and broken down by that point. And when people ask, well, why aren't Ayleid Ruins that broken down? Well, some of them are, but they are also made of not regular stone. They're made of moonstone, and that stuff is a little more sturdy. Anyway, another landmark is Frostcrag's Spire. It was a DLC in Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, a player home that you could buy on digital download if you wanted to give your money to the Xbox gods. Or you could always buy it as part of the Knights of the Nine expansion pack, which really was worth your money. Now, I'm not going to go into details other than it's part of the Synod questline. I'm really happy with how they dealt with it. In general, like, all the options they gave you, what they did with that player home, and the fact they acknowledged the player home being there, but at the same time, it was put to good use, I feel. In general, I feel that Beyond Skyrim Bruma is a fun little detour to play through, exploring it, doing the various quests. It'll take you a little longer than big quest mods like Falskar or Worm's Tooth. Now, unlike those, Falskar, Worm's Tooth, so on and so forth, which are trying to recreate the Skyrim experience in a brand new land, this isn't. Where projects like Skyblivion will let you relive Oblivion in the Skyrim engine, Beyond Skyrim Bruma is Oblivion put forward in time. And all those things that the 200-year time skip brought with them are present here, for better or worse. You can tell the level of polish that was put into this mod. The voice acting for the NPCs, with the exception of a couple minor ones, exceeds the level of Skyrim's base game. And the writing for many of the NPCs is top tier. Now, I think the Synod questline, those dialogues seem a bit unnatural. Like, they're spoken because the plot demands it, but that just isn't how people talk, so I don't know about that. But other than that, I would say that it's definitely solid as far as the writing and the NPCs go. Now, the mod isn't without its bugs, and I had several non-functional quests as well as crash-to-desktop issues, which were all acknowledged by the developers. And they quickly put out a 1.2 patch which fixed the crashes and fixed some of the quests. Now, not all of the quests have been fixed to my knowledge, but who knows, by the time this review gets up, they might have a 1.3 or 1.4. They seem to be on the ball, and they seem to be quick at fixing and finding and diagnosing problems. So I have no doubt that this will be better by the time I actually get this video to you guys than how I experienced it back in 1.1. Note that 1.0 was literally unplayable because it had glitches. So from literally unplayable to fairly buggy to not buggy at all in 1.2, that's pretty amazing. Either way, I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of Cyrodiil looks like. In general, I not only recommend Beyond Skyrim Bruma
to play, but I recommend keeping an eye out for future mods by the various Beyond Skyrim teams. Keep in mind that Bruma is more or less a teaser for Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil, which will be the whole thing, and will integrate Bruma into its world space, so you will have integrated quest lines and things like that most likely. The next mod I'd expect from the Beyond Skyrim team, however, is the Iliac Bay team. Iliac Bay is the region which you played through in Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, so it'll be nice to see that. And whilst I will be partially disappointed because you have to squish all of that content down into a teeny tiny little scale like Skyrim's, I still look forward to seeing it because you'll be able to take your character there to Cyrodiil back and forth. I'm very excited about that idea of just being able to travel around Tamriel with the same character. And that's what Beyond Skyrim aims to do. Now, people were asking, is a special edition version of Bruma coming? And the answer is yes. However, they have to port all of their assets, which is not easy. You see, the file format used in regular Skyrim is not necessarily compatible with the special edition. So there's a lot of converting and bug fixing and testing and tweaking. But I hear they're going to do it, so I'm looking forward to it. So at this point, I'm just going to say play the mod. It's fun. Check it out. You'll probably like it. And if you are a fan of Oblivion, there's a lot of nostalgia packed into this thing. And if you are a fan of Skyrim, there are a lot of hints and references, but they're done tastefully in a way that isn't fan service, because they don't really give a crap what Ulfric Stormcloak's doing up there. And that's cool, because it's a brand new province, even if it's an old province. Either way, check the links for more content, and I will see y'all next time. For the Stormcloak Rebellion, we will annex Bruma.
What's going on here?
No shit. I was massacred right there. Dear Ulfric, today I conquered Bruma. It was fun.